Sam.
Kaylin.
Bread and Butter Podcast, episode 2, season 2.
That's like two for two.
2 for 2.
Oh man, we're just hitting home runs here.
Well, we're 2 for 2. That's 100%.
We're 2 for 2, and we have 2 guests today.
We
so
do.
That's like 2 for 2.
Our episode 1, we didn't have any guests, and we went down some rabbit holes and thought it was good.
Yeah, so it's always nice to have guests that keep us on track because, then it's about them.
It should
Not
be about them.
us.
And we've got great guests today. How's your week been?
My week's been really great. I mean, it felt like there was so much to do, yet it didn't feel like a very busy week.
Yes.
Remember last episode, I was talking about trying to get better, and man, This week has been awesome. And did Cook's Camp on Wednesday.
Yes,
I don't want to steal what
fantastic.
you did, but I'll let you talk about Cook's Camp. But I really enjoyed it as a spectator, and I know you were a participant. So, yeah, it was great. And the week's just flown by. I'm really looking forward to the weekend at home in the rain, possibly. It's going to be great. Hot chocolate and movies.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, same for me. And the beauty thing about the Bread Butter Collective, we meet regularly on Mondays. We do our podcast on Monday as well. So it's a great start to the week. It starts, us thinking about what we want to do and keeping us focused. And, the mentorship group just keeps us on track and, allows us to kind of focus on the task at hand, which is good. And obviously the vaccine passports rolled out this week.
Did you have any issues in your places about
not
that?
yet. There was a few protests that I've heard about orders that were sent in and then canceled or not picked up or whatever because there was, the anti-mask, anti-vaccine protesters.
So sorry, are you saying people were calling in orders and then
Yes.
purposely not picking them
Yeah,
up? Oh,
and
I
that
haven't
didn't
heard
happen
that.
at any of our shops, but I heard that it happened at a few. So there's that, but I think for the most part it's gone smoothly, and hopefully we can just keep kicking this pandemic in the butt.
Yeah, I haven't had to actually pull my passport out yet, and
I've used it a few times. It's great,
you?
super easy. I was at dinner at Aura last night, and it was super simple. The fact that anybody's even thinking about this is bizarre to me. But hey, well, we'll be interested to see what our guests. We've got 2 amazing restaurateurs and coffee shop owner out of Victoria, BC. Our guest, Rob Kettner from Hey Happy. He's born in Winnipeg, Manitoba, moved to Victoria in 1998, did film school in 2000, wrote and directed a couple film festival circuit films, and amazingly traveled to Afghanistan in 2005 to document Langford firefighters who went to Kabul to donate gear and train Afghan firefighters. So that is going to be super interesting. He helped start Fernwood Coffee with partners in 2007, won the Canadian Barista Championship in 2010, started Hey Happy in 2014, and became a father to Sally Kettner in 2017, which is great. So he's going to be joining us. And the purpose of the show is just backstory, origin story, how they started, why they got into the industry, what experience they brought to the table, all that stuff. So Marianne Carmack is going to join us as well. And she's from Roast, Taco El Pastor, and La Pasta in the Victoria market. She's had some amazing experiences, started business in San Diego. She's been in the food industry for over a decade, established food culture in San Francisco, San Diego, and Victoria. She boasts a powerful mix of executive management, marketing, branding, and project development skills. A seasoned entrepreneur and businesswoman, Carmack has established a solid network based upon respect, community values. She currently is the owner and director of operations of Roast Meat and Sandwich Shop, La Pasta, La Pizza, and Taco Stand El Pastor, located in the Victoria Public Market. She is also the president of the Bread and Butter Collective.
Whoa!
Our fearless leader.
Hey.
Welcome, guys. How are you?
Those are a couple of CVs.
Great. So good.
Rob, why don't we start with you?
Hi.
How are you doing? How are things going? Tell us a bit about the things.
I'm honestly happy that this is like the beginning of the weekend to be with you guys for me.
Isn't it
Feels
great?
like the beginning of the weekend.
It is the beginning of the weekend for you. It's
Yeah,
it's
I mean, I
Friday
work
afternoon.
tomorrow. It's not really a weekend for me, but
Is there any weekends? That's the question. Not really. Find hours.
people are having fun out there, and that means a lot to me.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And what's a little bit of work on a Saturday, right?
You know,
And Marianne, how are you doing?
Yeah, there's no weekends in our industry. What are you talking about? I also work tomorrow too. I have an event for 175 people here in the Victoria Public Market. So I'm gearing up for a big event and a long night.
Marianne, did you organize that one too for the whole?
Yeah, it's actually the UVic Law Society. So this is their kickoff for their year, and with COVID protocols, everybody has to be seated. So I'm really trying to kind of figure out how this is all going to work and doing it the right way. But it should be a good event.
Wow.
Well, I think everybody in those situations will cooperate, and it's going to go way smoother than you think. Obviously, as you know, when you plan these things, it's the fear of them. Once you get into it, it's intoxicating, exhausting leading up. A lot of energy coming from it, and then you fall asleep, and hopefully your husband's going to take care of you, or your kids.
Yeah.
Well, you've done so many of these events that you just know it's going to work, I'm sure.
Yeah, it always works out.
Yeah, right on. Well, should we start pulling the curtain back on these two lovely
Well,
lives,
this is very interesting because Rob, I want to start with Rob. Tell us a little bit about your film background, and then how you got into traveling to Afghanistan.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like to drop that one. It's the more that I I have to kind of like I did that when I was when it was like 2005, I believe, and I had a good 3, 4, 5 run where it was still felt very fresh. I could tell people that.
Yeah.
I think I was single a little bit of the time, and I could use that one would be a good one. Feels like the further we are away from it, it's like, are you still throwing that one out there? But nevertheless, it is an interesting part of my history. But no, I grew up, I really loved film, and I kind of just thought I could do that. And I went to film school. I loved it. I made a film in film school called Squirt.
Oh,
and it was actually about like a coming of age movie of a lad who basically has a bit of bladder shyness in a public bathroom, and he can't go, and but the pressure is on and it's sort of mounting, and then he is able to overcome. In case any of you see it, I don't know if I want to.
No spoilers.
It's an 11-minute short that I did in film school. No.
So someone saw this and said, "We got to bring him to Afghanistan."
And anyways.
So how did the squirt lead you?
Squirt.
Okay, left you to the firemen in Langford, and then take it from there.
Well, the Langford situation was crazy. It was this firefighter named Bob Beckett he was the chief of the Langford Fire Department, a real humanitarian. He was, kind of all over the place trying to build wells in Haiti, and he was overseas in developing countries, just always trying to keep his hand in something, and just an amazing person to talk to, engaging, awesome man. These guys, 9/11 had happened, and they went to New York. These Langford guys, 2 of them and Beckett, went to New York, and they just were sent to funerals all over the place. I remember he was telling me just hundreds, thousands of firefighters would stream in from around the world, and a lot of them would just be sort of shipped off to funerals to make sure that the funerals were well populated, and by the brothers, and he came back and he realized that in all of this, that the Afghan firefighters were the ones that were truly going to be the forgotten ones, and with this war kind of loading up, and he found out that those firefighters over there had absolutely nothing, and he ended up raising over $300,000 worth of like turnout gear, face masks, gloves, boots, just everything, breathing apparatus, crazy stuff that they needed. And he had it shipped over via the military, the Canadian Forces. And then he planned on going over with 2 other firefighters to train a bunch of Afghan chiefs, firefighter chiefs from around Afghanistan, to meet in Kabul. And I somehow got involved, and I went with them. And I basically followed them around while they were there. And then I got back, and I had a bunch of footage, and I put together a documentary.
Wow.
That's the bones of it. I was staying with the armed forces, so everything was from their perspective.
Yeah, that's right.
And I mean, I met a lot of like incredible people, but it was very regimented, very, the way everything was viewed from a strategic point.
Yeah.
From where I was. They tell you kind of step by step what happens in case of, in case we get attacked or ambushed.
Wow.
And they tell you, and if they go through 3-4 scenarios, ending with, if you guys, pointing at us, are the only ones left, here's where the ammunition is.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like, they tell you that.
Wow, that's
It's like the last. It's like, and if last case scenario,
you're the last line of the defense.
Well, because you're gonna stay and we're gonna go out. Like, if anything happens, you're staying here. If this guy goes down, you might be asked to give him ammunition.
Wow.
If he goes down, then
wow,
you pick up. Yeah, it's like that.
I wish there was a business person to tell me 3 scenarios of my business life, and if I was the last one standing, what the hell to do.
Well, it's an interesting segue.
Every morning.
Because
every morning. Yeah, I need that.
Yeah.
Marianne created some businesses and started some businesses in the United States, which is another player in the whole piece of with 9/11 and Afghanistan and all that. So Marianne, tell us about what you were born in Victoria. You decided to head to San Francisco, San Diego. Where did it all start for you?
How do I follow up from Rob?
Listen, we're going to need to see some explosions and some battles and things like this, but I think you'll be able to figure it out.
I feel like I've been through some battles for sure, but
I should just follow you around with a camera.
Exactly.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah, born and raised Victoria, started off really young in the industry, worked at McDonald's. It was great. I quickly realized I could make my own schedule, and I booked every Sunday morning breakfast shift so I could get out of going to church.
Oh, nice.
You were smart from way back.
Yeah. And then, I started in the front of the house. I started with hosting and busing and waitressing. I worked at the Butchart Gardens for 8 or 9 years. It's a very seasonal business, so I was able to put myself through university, which was great, and travel in the winter, which was great. So I was trapped in at a very young age. Once university was over with, my husband is also in the industry, and we married really young at 23 and wanted to move on off the island to get more culinary experience. And that's where we landed in San Francisco in, year was that, like 2007. And we just really wanted to immerse ourselves and learn more about our industry. So I ended up managing and working at one of the top 100 restaurants at that time. And they went on to receive a Michelin star recognition. It was called SPQR. And my husband worked for the affiliate restaurant group, and he worked at A16. So it was really awesome. I mean, we were in our 20s, working really hard, raging really hard after work, and just kind of in that whole pendulum where you stay up late, sleep in.
Spend all your money.
Yeah, and yeah, blow through all your money. It was exhausting, but we loved it. And we always knew that we wanted to create something of our own. But after, working that hard for other people, we realized that just wasn't our future. We wanted to think ahead and maybe have a family one day. So that's why we created the concepts that we have now, which is quick service. And I'm happy that I found that out in a reasonable time. I wasn't burnt out yet. I was still quite young to start a business, and it's turned out very well for us. We now have a 10-year-old daughter and 3 businesses here in Victoria. And we tried it in San Diego. We made San Diego our home for 5 years. We opened up 2 locations, also in public markets down there. And it's tough. Going to a really saturated market where people have deep pockets, you're up against mega machines. And that's just not us. We're husband and wife own and operated. I get down and dirty with my businesses. I'm wearing my apron because I was working today, have dirty rags right next to me. And I can't go up against big giant restaurant groups. So
there's a lot more down there, isn't there? There's a lot of here we can count, I don't know, 20 or 30 major franchises, but you go down there and times that by 1,000.
Quite honestly, our businesses here are based off our loyal customers, the people that we see 2-3 times a week that work downtown. And that just wasn't our customer base in the US. There are restaurants opening every single day and closing every single day. So we could never build up those people that would come back. And it's, you fail in some ways, but you learn from it. And I don't look at it as failure. We went from those 2 shops to open up a catering business with Qualcomm Network, and it clicked. It worked. It was we would pop up a ghost kitchen at one of their locations, and there's 25,000 employees. And it was just Ryan and I bombing in with all of our food, and we could use everything in their commercial kitchen. And we would set up and work lunch and then go home at the end of the day, be home at 3 o'clock to pick up our daughter. And we had $1,000 in our teens. It worked. And we were just starting to get that going, and COVID hit, and we realized we got to pick up the pieces back in Victoria. Let's get out of here. It's going to get weird, which, it did. It still is. And really, our home is here. We needed to protect what we have and what's really important to us. And it's the 3 shops that we have in the Victoria public market.
Did you have those businesses at the same time as in San? Yeah, interesting.
So it was a great lesson for me, especially because having 5 locations, 3 of them removed from my home, and me flying back and forth is a way to mismanage your businesses.
Yeah.
You really there. I thought I had it all figured out. I was it looks great from the outside, but it's not. You can't. It's not. It was not a good situation. But I think that was a big learning lesson for me. I constantly take on more and more, and I can't say no. And it's exciting opening up restaurants. It's that's what I love to do. I love projects, but don't expand until you've got it really completely dialed. There's no reason to have another location if you haven't dialed in the one that you already have. So picking up the pieces and starting over through COVID has only been a blessing in disguise for us, because we really tore apart our businesses, built them back up again, just streamlined them so much more, was able to put a really amazing team together, the best we've ever had. And we're still working on it, but we're working at our businesses to make them better. And if we didn't do that, then we wouldn't be very good operators.
Yeah, I like what you're saying about not expanding until you get your first one done, because then if you have mistakes in your first one, you're just copying those mistakes and making them exponentially worse. It doesn't make it easier. It makes it way harder. I've done that, and I regret it for sure.
Yeah, Roast has been open for 8 years. We still have things that we're working on. And then La Pasta, La Pizza, and Taco Stand have only been open for maybe 3. And we just added pizza this past 8 months. So we're constantly adding, we're constantly moving things around, we're constantly working in the business. And I love it. I love chaos. I think I breathe chaos, but it just makes me feel okay, I've got so many things on my plate, but I can do this. And then when I get to it, it feels good.
Is chaos something that we can all agree we all thrive on a little bit, or at least it gets us up in the day? I don't know.
Totally.
How do you feel about that, Rob? About chaos being a driver, or are you more of a calm sort?
It's unavoidable for one thing. You can be as organized as you want, but in this business, you're facing however many things, unexpected things every single day, probably 10 things every day, whether it's just a little thing or something slightly bigger, who knows. But it's it doesn't feel good to me to be too chaotic. So, but I mean, like, you know, it is totally unavoidable. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes me feel good. I maybe when I was younger. Now yeah.
Yeah, I
It
think
hurts.
when I
It
was
hurts.
younger, I think
It
chaos.
hurts.
I think
It
chaos
hurts.
was a real driver for me, but I really do appreciate the non-chaotic parts of my life.
Well,
Yeah,
it's like the heroin, you know, in a way, it's the adrenaline that you seek, and sometimes you can create your own chaos just because you miss it once you get things dialed. But as you go through business, and the unique perspective of all of us here is we've had a pretty vast knowledge of business, especially in the restaurant, hospitality, and coffee shop businesses. So we've all had those periods, and some people are. The one thing that COVID did is challenge us in ways that we never thought we'd be challenged. So, as far as you know, the veterans of World War II, even though it's not as obviously serious as that in some degrees, but just the experience that we're all going to have as we come out of it, and having pivoted and navigated and challenged ourselves and opened our minds to the various different things and challenges. So, Rob, I want kind of question for you with, you know, obviously you come back from Afghanistan and probably did some more film stuff. Getting into business, how was that for you? And I know you've had I've had a variety of partners and partnerships in my career, and you have as well. How, you know, based on that experience, how are you enjoying, you know, where you're at today?
Yeah, like you said, I've had a bit of both. I like where I am today. I think it still sort of remains blurry because of COVID, and we're still, all of us, dealing with it. So it's I'm not exactly sure where we are as a business even yet. But I feel optimistic. I feel positive. Um, uh, it's yeah, being in business is is an emotional roller coaster, kind of, you know, up and down. And um, I feel good where we are right now. But ask me tomorrow.
Yeah, the answer may change. I think that's a
Maybe.
fair response.
No, honestly, in general,
Yeah.
you know, I try not to do the day by day sort of
Yeah.
reading anymore.
Well, I think it's important to have that longer term goal. And, you know, I think a lot of people get caught. I've said this before on these shows and in other meetings and stuff, is not being so focused on the outcome, but just trying to make good decisions along the way. So
Mhm.
stacking good decisions, you know, will result in good results. But if you just focus on the outcome, you can get rattled when it's not, you don't think it's going your way, when literally, because you're not focused on the decision in front of you, you aren't making good decisions, or don't recognize that, oh, I made 4 bad decisions and 1 good decision, but you remember the good decision, but not the 4 bad ones. And then it's hard to stack bad on top of good and good on top of bad. So try to just make good decisions along the way and pivot. I mean, you can only do as much as you can do because of, you know, moments in time. You only have so much knowledge, so you try to make the best decision you can with the information you have.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it's important just to focus on one thing at a time, because, you know, that's where you can, where at least I tend to get things done a little bit better.
Yeah,
And going back to the chaos, if there's too much of that, or if even if I, and of course what you have to do on occasion, or more so, even step back and look at the big picture. It's important, but sometimes that can kind of, you know,
Mhm.
there's a lot going on in the big picture, and you've got a lot of ideas and directions, and or even if it's just one, there's always ideas, like Marianne said.
yeah, that's right.
But I think it's really important, if you're going to get them done, to be on one of them at a time.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Order them, and then really just focus on one at a time. And that's how I get things done.
Yeah.
that's probably
Yeah.
helped you, Marianne, too.
Yeah, I was gonna just add that it's also really important, besides the chaos. I was just like kind of joking around with that. I mean, I don't love it, It just
You're addicted
happened.
to it.
Yeah, ridiculous.
I am.
But it's
Listen, I am
so,
too. No,
yeah.
this isn't a
I'm in
shame.
denial. That's all.
Yeah, you're in denial, Rob.
I'm in denial.
Hey, Rob,
Yeah.
I got a superficial, well, not superficial, it's a super question about your business. I've always wanted to know why Hey Happy? What's with the name?
The name.
I absolutely love it, and it looks great on T-shirts, and it looks great. But why did you pick Hey Happy?
It's a film actually. Hey, comma happy is a film. Feel free to Google it.
I will.
It was a film made in Winnipeg. When would that have been made?
Let me see
Maybe
if I can
around
Google it.
2000 or so. Anyways, maybe slightly later than that. A film by a Winnipegger. And I had made a film, as I mentioned before, and it was doing a little film festival circuit, and it ended up opening up for this guy's film. Noam Gonick, his name is. It ended up opening for this guy's film in Winnipeg, which is my hometown. His film was called Hey, comma happy, and there was it was interesting for me. I was young, had ambitions of being a filmmaker, and this guy had made a full-length feature film, and he did it in Winnipeg and with Winnipeg landmarks, and it looked like a professionally made film, and it impressed me. I mean, the film was crazy. It was like about the queer rave scene, like a futuristic sort of post-Armageddon queer rave scene. That old one. Anyways,
yeah, that old classic.
Yeah. That's what it was. And I mean, choosing a name for business, a kid, whatever, it's nearly impossible, right? Yeah. And unless you just happen to have had something your whole life. So I settled on that, and I was like, no, this is definitely got to be the name. I have to name this place that. So I wrote to him and I said, hey, no, I'm opening a cafe and I'm calling it Hey Happy. I hope that you're more flattered than pissed off with me. And he said, go for it and send me a t-shirt. And I did that. And then one day a bunch of posters arrived in the mail, and I still have them. I have to frame one, put it only in the bathroom because it says, hey, comma happy, and then it's got a picture of Happy, who, as you just mentioned, Sam, is the lead character, and it's his image at the front. And then I believe the slug line is a sloppy, fun rave fest.
Oh man, well that sounds like what I expect when I come for coffee with you.
Yeah.
See, but now we know the backstory, right?
That's the best.
That's every time I walk by your store, go in, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah.
I love the fact that you had to that you chose to contact the author, the director, writer. I did the same thing with 2%. I tracked down. I tracked down Maceo Parker. This was like almost pre-internet, so it was all on the telephone and trying to track him down via telephone on the back of album covers, looking at management companies that he's worked with, and I finally got him in North Carolina.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. So I love hearing that you did the same thing. It was just so
what happened when you did it?
The same thing. He was super flattered, super eager. I called him. I said, "Listen, I live in Victoria, and I want to open up a coffee shop, and I want to name it 2% Jazz because I just want people to feel better just by being in my shop, just like you want people to feel better just by listening to your music. I mean, I want the same thing, and I want to do it in a cafe for him." And he was like, "Yeah, that sounds great, Sam."
Oh,
and then
awesome.
and then he would come to Victoria fairly often, actually, back in the day when they were touring, and his whole tour bus would like unload at the Times Colonist, and they would all come for coffee after the show. It was so fun. Yeah, it was a lot of fun seeing Miss Martha High walking off a tour bus and Maceo. It was crazy.
Even Roast, for example, is spurs interest in questions and scratch the surface. You know, we look at Big Wheel Burger. It's like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure it's a burger joint, but what's the deal with Big Wheel? Like, is it a name? Is it a person? Is it, where'd you get the name? Right. So, and 2% Jazz is another, I mean, it's kind of interesting. There's a lot of, we've been lucky that we, you know, can have created businesses that create some query and, you know, curiosity, I guess is part of it. Marianne, what, do you have anything coming up or planned, or like, what's your next kind of 3-6 months look like?
Oh, 3-6 months.
Just survive.
Yeah. What do I have coming up? I mean, we've been working on a bar. We've opened up Roast in La Pasta, so it's more of like one big restaurant. So it's added lots of seating, which is really cool. We're waiting on our liquor license. We're going to start a beverage company. My husband used to own a beverage company in San Diego, and so this is going to be kind of like his little micro business. We'll start it at our company and then see where we can grow it after that. So that's kind of exciting. More projects, right?
Yeah. What kind of beverage? Yeah. More chaos. You get it. Like what kind of beverage? Like non-alcoholic or?
Yeah, non-alcoholic. So he used to have a ginger beer company down in the States, and he had like 20 different flavors using all freshly pressed juice and fresh ginger. So, I mean, it's great on its own as a non-alcoholic drink, but yeah, mix it up with some vodka or some rum. You can have some really great.
Wow. Let's trace that back for a second. I know that he used to work at Canoe, and when I used to go to Canoe all the time and I wasn't drinking, I would have their ginger beer, which was made fresh with champagne yeast in the bottle and with fresh juice. Was that like, you think that came from him?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't remember him making, I mean, I know he influenced Canoe at the time, and introduced like tiki to Canoe way back before tiki was big here in Victoria. And I mean, he was the GM there for 5 years, so I'm sure he has some sort of influence on that. I mean, when we start new businesses, we're taking all of our knowledge from where we've been, and we're just, you know, creating our own. So I'd have to ask him that. I'll ask him that.
Interesting. We might be outing some trade secrets that maybe were stolen.
Or we're
not
just
accusing him of
together.
anything.
We're just piecing the history of Victoria.
It's the fabric
beverages.
of this. It's a great way to cap the show because it's about the fabric. You become, you know, the strings and the thread of your entire life, right?
Yeah.
So your different experiences impact where you are today, and your ability to handle challenges and navigate all the different landmines that we come across. So it's interesting. No shade on anything, right?
No.
Like,
oh, hell's no.
I want to ask a question just as we're kind of wrapping up to both of you, but I'll start with Marianne. Like from your life experience, and obviously you've had a variety of business experiences and lived in different countries and that type of stuff. What is, you know, one of the more impactful things that you've learned from those experiences? Like if you could sum it up in a sentence or, you know, a mantra or something like that, is there something that you draw on to kind of remind you of some of those little side steps and maybe missteps you may have made or learnings?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that I've learned throughout being a business owner is to ask for help when you need it. So I work with Lionel Morey. He has his own consulting business, Island Hospitality Consulting. And I call him I'm like, I need some help. Like I can't do it all. And so it's really important to recognize when you can't do it all and to reach out to the people that maybe know a little bit more of something that you don't, or can do it faster and more efficiently. And secondly, going back to Bread and Butter Collective, that's exactly what this collective is for me. Not only is it a great place to just enjoy everyone's company and get to know each other better, but it's a safe place to ask for help or ask questions or see what's working and not working with other businesses to make sure that you're kind of on the same page and that you're doing all you can to be a successful business owner and supporting your team members. So asking for help is the biggest thing that I've learned throughout my career.
Wow, that's a great,
I think that's
all-around lesson for life, I'd say.
100%. And I think that's a roadblock of many people's not asking for help soon enough and being insecure about it. And, you know, the Bread and Butter Collective, for me, even, you know, I've always thought, oh, I know this, I know that. I've been around a long time. But I've been enlightened many a time in our meetings and going, wow. And it just creates a benchmark of standards. You can ask, oh, okay, what do you do? Or what is this? Or what's normal for this business? And
I think what's really interesting about our group is that we can leave the egos at the door.
Yeah.
And be like on the same page and ask all the stupid questions and keep learning. Because if we're not going to keep learning, then what's the point of being a business owner? You have to keep like changing, and as the world is, it's just, you know, gotta go with it. So
I love it. That was a great answer, Rob. You guys are gonna get points for these answers, by the way. We're having a contest. I forgot to tell you.
And you can't copy.
Yeah, you can't copy.
Copying.
Well, I would say that it's all about asking for help.
Oh, that's a great answer, Rob. I'm glad you thought of that.
Whoa! What the heck?
Brilliant. Show's over.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, for sure, I have to agree, though. I'm not copying. Like, I definitely want to agree, because you need mentors, right? I mean, you definitely need to have people that you can lean on. So of course, like when you are in that position where you need some answers, then yeah, it's best that you have some people that you've had a good relationship with, whether that's people that you peers like we have at Bread and Butter, or just other business owners that you're friendly and open enough with, that there's a good enough give and take, that you have a good enough relationship with, that you can share and help and truly, sort of park an ego, like you guys said. I try and I think that earlier on, when I was doing things in this business, I was so emotionally affected by what other people thought of my customers, and how many of them would come back, and how many of them what do they think, and even what did my sales look like, and I would just ride those emotions up and down, and I can honestly say this without putting my business down in any way, that my give a shit level is so much lower now than it was then, as far as kind of what's happening from a numbers perspective. I mean, like, sure, that having said that, as long as you're not constantly headed south, then it's more about sort of just, like I said, focusing on one thing at a time, tightening this, tightening that, always trying to tighten something. That's kind of my thing. If everything seems good, then pick up the menu and start going through it, one item at a time, and just going over it always. And but I think just telling yourself that there's what is the importance level of the stress that I'm feeling right now, about what it is, and where does it fit in with my life right now. So
I think
just trying to take a little bit more of a perspective approach, and not let things because otherwise you just live with too much like hate in your heart.
Oh, totally. Let's not have any hate in our heart.
I think as an entrepreneur, as your vision grows, you're able to let your I don't give a meter get stronger, but you need to have that vision get equally stronger at the same time, almost. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Sometimes you just got to be like a duck, let the small things roll off your back. As long as you got your eyes on the prize,
totally.
It doesn't matter what every single person thinks, because it's more important that you create your vision and put it in front of people, and those who will appreciate it are gonna really love it.
I agree. It's a great way to end this segment. Join us on our podcast on breadandbutter.com, breadandbuttercollective.com/podcast, or check for this episode. We're going to wrap it up. Fantastic. Thank you guys for joining us. That was great. Excellent. All right. Well, let's wrap it up.
Is that it? Are we out of here?
I think we're out of here.
We know all about your history, so we'll talk about
it.
We've already talked about
we could talk about our next origin stories and all that kind of
jazz. All right. We should do our own origin stories one day.
We will. We will.
Okay.
We'll do that maybe on a wrap-up show for season 2.
Or
How?
what?
What about
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
mine
talk to me
certainly
about
changed.
yours.
I mean, mine was born out of just a total love of hospitality. I wanted to make people feel better, so I opened up a coffee shop. I happened to work at a coffee shop. I loved coffee, but it wasn't my driving force. It was engaging with people.
Yeah, it was about the people,
Yeah.
the service, and the hospitality of it.
And of course, then that changed until I became head over heels in love with coffee and the process, while still keeping my
then you became an
hospitality.
expert.
Then I became an expert in that field, and now it's like, I hate to say that the hospitality part of my business isn't the same, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's not worse. It's different, and it needs to be different for what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
However, my passion for hospitality hasn't changed, which makes working in this environment these days just a little bit harder for sure.
Yeah.
But we're all going to get through that, and hopefully we can get back to an original passion of
and I think we will. I mean, I know we will. I mean,
it's just a matter of how much longer, right?
Yeah, and it could be another year, it could be another 8 months, could be a year and a half.
Yeah,
but there will be an end.
There is, and you know what? When I first started 2% Jazz, I knew nothing about business. Really, absolutely nothing. It was embarrassing.
Wow, you've just done so well.
And so that has been a real change in my focus of my business, and I love that change in my approach to my business. Yeah. That's been a really good change, super positive. But it certainly has changed from my beginnings to now.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
And I'd love to hear more about the Big Wheel McNeil.
Oh.
See, I learned about that this year, and that drew a couple pieces together for me about your business. I love this concept of origin stories, because I know from my own perspective, I love knowing more about the businesses I go to, and I know for the general public, which I hope are listening to this, I hope that they're getting a real thrill at learning a little bit more about their local businesses. To me, I mean,
but doesn't
that
make a community better? Like, even if knowing your neighbor, you're going to get a better understanding. The conversations are going to be more rich, and you're going to appreciate them. And all those things that make life, like the lights are brighter and the colors are more, vibrant and all that stuff. I mean, get to know your neighbor, get to know your local business person, get to understand what's going on, and open the door for conversation.
And having that conversation allows you into their perspective. And by understanding other people's perspectives, you just gained a lot of knowledge.
Oh my God. And perhaps there will be less bickering and fighting. And, when you pass your neighbor on the street, say hello and wave. Yeah. And just regardless of what day you're having, just, extend a hello and a smile. Yeah. Smiling is contagious.
It sure is. Thanks for the smiles across the table at me today, Mr.
Sam. Any day, my friend. Any day.
Right.
I love it. I love doing the show with you, and this is fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm just having the best time.
I'm also enjoying this immensely. Excellent. So thanks a lot, man. I hope you have a great weekend.
You too.
I'm gonna.
Let's be kind.
And nice. Cheers.
Bread and Butter Collective's membership includes the following local businesses: 2% Jazz, 900 Degrees Wood-Fired Pizzeria, Agrius, Big Wheel Burger, Blue Mountain Solutions, Bodega Tapas Wine Bar, Brentwood Bay Village Emporium, Nourish and Charlotte the Quail, Victoria Chocolate and Company, Drum Roaster Coffee, Habit Coffee, Foo Asian Street Food, the Culinary Arts Program at Camosun, Cafe Fantastico, Fall Epi, Harold Street Brewworks, Hey Happy, House of Botang, Hoyne Brewing, Jenny Marie's Cracker Company, La Pasta, La Rue Patisserie, Mocha House, Part and Parcel, Poco a Pinto Bar, Pizzeria Prima Strada, Rain Dogs, Roast, Table 9 Consulting, Sherwood Cafe and Bar, Sweets by Selena, The Collective Wine Bar and Kitchen, The Drake, Tapa Bar, Taco Stand Al Pastor, Took, The Whole Beast, The Wienery, and Zambries.